Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the class. As you all know, we are doing the gift of the Magi. This is the second lesson that we were to do in your the next cycle. Okay, the first one was Where the Mind is Without Fear by Rabindranath Tagore. The second one is a very interesting story by O. Henry, The Gift of the Magi. We have already um, uh, studied, gone through most of the part of the story, and I think some of you have watched this video earlier as well. So this is the part which is remaining to be done. We'll do this and then we'll move ahead to the um, analysis of the story. So welcome back. I hope most of you have joined the class now. So since it's time for us, it's 1 o'clock, let's begin. All right, so a very interesting perspective. You can see the pan she had kept ready here for the chops to cook, the coffee that she had prepared and made ready because she was expecting her husband to come. Now, we have seen that Della is seen in her short hair, and Della is imploring her husband to, not be angry or disappointed, because she is unable to read the expressions on Jim's face, and Jim is asking the question, "Your hair is gone. Your hair is gone," again and again, as if he has not been able to absorb or grasp the truth that Della has short hair now. Now we'll see the reason for this very soon. Now we'll read further now. Out of his trance, Jim seemed quickly to wake. He enfolded his Della. For 10 minutes, let us regard with discreet scrutiny some inconsequential object in the other direction. $8 a week or a million a year, what's the difference? Now here the writer, or you can say the narrator, is giving his own perspective. A mathematician or a wit would give you the wrong answer. A wit is an intelligent person. A mathematician, is very good with calculations. So a mathematician or a wit will give you a wrong answer, because $8 a week or a million a year, there's a lot of difference. Okay. If you go to see practically, there's a lot of difference. But what the writer is trying to tell us here is the Magi brought valuable gifts, but that was not among them. This assertion, this dark assertion, will be illuminated later on. So as the writer says that later on we'll see what was the difference here. Whether you're very rich or you're very poor, what's the difference? A very practical person would say there's a lot of difference. But then they will give you the wrong answer. The wrong answer is not that. But the Magi brought valuable gifts. Okay. But the valuable gifts that the Magi brought, the biggest gift, which could not be seen actually, was the gift of love. They had brought the gifts because they wanted to bring the best. Now, what is this? Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it upon the table. "Don't make any mistake, Dell," he said, "about me. I don't think there's anything in the way of a haircut or a shave or a shampoo that could make me like my girl any less. But if you'll unwrap that package, you may see why you had me going. Why you had me going means why I was shocked a while at first." So when Della finally opened that package, she gave out a scream of joy. And why? Because there it was, the beautiful, the set of combs, that Della had wanted was long in a Broadway window. Beautiful combs, pure tortoise shell with jeweled rims, just the shade to wear in the beautiful vanished hair. They were expensive combs, and her heart had simply craved and yearned over them without the least hope of possession. Now Della knew that they could not afford it, and her husband, being the loving husband that he was, he had seen the yearning, the desire in her eyes that she wanted that. Okay. So he made it a point to buy those combs for her, and she knew they were expensive. But then, you know, what the irony is? The irony is that Della is crying and, she's wailing. You know why? Because she cannot use them anymore. So now, both of these people, this young man and his wife, the wife is wailing away, the husband is trying to, comfort her, and then finally she says, my hair grows so fast, Jim. That means she's trying to appease her husband or to console herself as well as her husband by saying that my hair grows so fast. That means, don't worry, I'm going to be able to um, uh, use these combs shortly. In no time my hair will grow and I'll be able to use these combs. So this is like she's trying to convince herself and her husband. And then Della leaped up like a little singed cat and cried, as if a cat that has been burnt by the fire in the fireplace. Oh, and then what she remembers, that she hasn't yet shown her present to Jim. So she held it out to him eagerly upon her open palm. The dull, precious metal seemed to flash with a reflection of a bright and ardent spirit. Bright and ardent. Ardent is, full of love. Bright is because she's so happy right now giving this beautiful gift to her Jim. So see the expression in on Della's face. She's so happy. She has forgotten the sorrow of her the gift that she has received, which is momentarily of no use to her. And look at the expression on Jim's face. Jim is looking at her with expressions that Della, you do not know the reality. you know so but Della in her happiness doesn't seem to notice that, and Della goes on. She says, isn't it a dandy, Jim? Dandy means beautiful thing. I hunted all over town to find it. You'll have to look at the time 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how it looks on it. So she says, I want to see the watch now. You please give the watch to me. I'm going to put it on the watch and then we'll see how it looks. So instead of obeying, because, Jim cannot obey anymore. Why? Because there is no watch to show. So Jim tumbled down on the couch and put his hands under the back of his head and smiled. Dell, let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them a while. They're too nice to use just at present. I sold the watch to get the money to buy your homes. And now suppose you put the chops on. So now Jim tells her that Dell, we have to put our presents away. They're so good that we just cannot use them right now. And what is the reason that he gives? He says that, I have sold my watch to buy your combs. So, and now suppose you put the chops on, that means, chalo, let's get on. Let's eat our chops and be happy. And none of us can use our gifts right now. Look at the horrified expression on Della's face here, and see, Jim is relaxed. He knows now what has happened, and it's it's a tragic situation, but Jim tries to make light of this situation. He says, "Chalo, now nothing has happened. Put on the chops. That means now let's have supper now. Okay, now that we have exchanged our gifts." So this is what happened in the lives of these two people from outside this place. Okay, there is nothing to do, but to embrace each other and realize how much they love each other, and that they love each other so much that they have given their most precious possession, their own possession, to um, buy a gift for their loved one. Now, this paragraph that comes in the end of the story is very important. Now, that is why, the painter has now giving us a perspective from outside this building. Now we can see these people here, and now let's read this. The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men. The three kings. You remember the manger, the nativity scene that we had all put up together for Christmas. The day we had our Christmas carnival. There were three kings, and I had told you to wrap up nice gifts and bring for the kings to hold. So many of you helped me putting that up. Thank you so much. It was a beautiful nativity scene that we had put up. So these three kings had brought gifts to the babe in the manger, which was Jesus Christ. And they invented the art of giving Christmas presents. So this the trend or the ritual of exchanging gifts on Christmas began from the day baby Jesus was born. So they invented the art of giving Christmas presents. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones. So they were the wise men, and so the gifts were also, they had a lot of meaning, But being wise, they brought gifts, and they the gifts held a lot of meaning. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. Now we already know that the two most precious possessions were Della's beautiful hair and Jim's gold watch. Now, the writer tells us that the wise men had brought wise gifts, wisely bought gifts. So why am I telling you the story of these two foolish children? This couple, they're a young couple, so he calls them lovingly, he calls them children. And he says they're foolish. Why? Because they have unwisely, they have sacrificed for each other their greatest possessions. But then, in the end, he says, a last word to the wise of these days. Let it be said that of all who gave gifts, these two were the wisest. In the end, he gives a wise word that why have I related these two to the gifts of the Magi, the wise men? Because whoever has given gifts, these were the wisest. They may seem foolish at first, giving away their only possessions, and they try to adorn the other person's possession. Okay, like Jella sold her hair so that Jim could enjoy his possession, all the more his watch, and Jim sold his watch so that he could add more beauty to Jella's hair. They were the wisest. And he says, of all who give and receive gifts such as they are wisest, such as these people. That means whoever gives gifts like these people. That means they give the best, and they give up, their own best to give gifts to the others. They make a sacrifice everywhere. They are the wisest. So such people, he is not only now talking about these two people, Jim and Della. He's talking about everyone who is like Jim and Della, who would give their best. Like, uh, we also do it so many times. We collect our pocket money to buy something nice for ourselves, and then suddenly we come to know it's Mother's Day or Father's Day or your mother's or father's birthday or grandparents' day or something like this, and then you decide to start saving for your thing later, and then you use that money to buy something for your grandparents or your brother or sister or your parents or your friend. This is the gift of the Magi, according to O. Henry. It may seem foolish to people who could not do this, who cannot sacrifice for others. But for O. Henry and people who are really wise, who know the value of love and sacrifice, this is the wisest gift. Okay. So, with this, we come to the end of the story. And now I want to share with you the analysis, the beautiful analysis, the story, the analysis of the story. Now, see, children, this analysis is equally important because here you get to know all the underlined, the underlying current, um, the theme of the story, the different characters, and the significance of various events, and also, of course, the author. So the author is William Sidney Porter, and his pseudonym, the name that he used to write stories, was O. Henry. And someday when we meet, I'm going to show you my collection of O. Henry's stories. It's a beautiful collection, and when we have time, I'm going to read out some lovely stories for you from that book. So, O. Henry was an American short story writer. O. Henry's short stories are known for their wit, the wordplay, warm characterization, and surprise endings, like we had in this story. Like many other writers, O. Henry's early career aspirations were unfixed, and he wandered across different activities and professions before he finally found his calling as a short story writer. From pharmacy to drafting, journalism, and banking. So finally, after trying his hand at different careers, he realized that his real um, interest and talent lay in story writing. So during his early 20s, he published a weekly humor magazine, The Rolling Stone, which failed. Then he took up a job with the Houston Post newspapers. However, with a past misdeed and some embezzlement of funds caught up with him, and which led him to flee over Honduras. Honduras are the British Honduras, a group of islands which were under the Britishers, to escape the punishment. So when he found out that his wife, Ethel Porter, was dying back in the States, then he had to come back. So finally, she died, and he was arrested, and he spent 3 years in prison in Columbus, Ohio. He improved his writing skills there, and then after his released from prison, he became a professional writer and settled in New York City. Now, once more, a recap of the story. The Gift of the Magi is a short story written and published in 1905. You remember 1905 is the year I just taught one more class where one of our own famous writers, the winner of Sahitya Academy Award, was born. It takes place on Christmas Eve and tells the story of Jim and Della Dillingham, a poor young married couple who don't have enough money to buy each other Christmas gifts. So, between the couple, Jim's gold pocket watch that once belonged to his father and grandfather, and Della's lustrous long hair that falls below her knees. These are the only two possessions that they consider their treasures. Now, what is the setting of the story? What is the background? So, this takes place somewhere in New York City, and they live in a shabby second story flat. And the, the time is Christmas Eve, a long time ago. The exact year is not given to us. The weather condition, it was cold, it was snowing, because it was December, Christmas Eve. And the social condition of the couple is that they are financially struggling. Earlier, Jim used to earn $30 a week, and now he's only earning $20 a week. And what is the mood of the story? It is basically it is sad, emotional. So, and this is what the writer tells you. This line, life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles, with sniffles predominating. This is actually the gist of the story, and this line is taken from the text itself. Now, the characters. Let's analyze. We get to meet only three persons in the story. Two are major characters, and one is a minor character. Della Dillingham, a loving, devoted woman to her a loving woman devoted to her husband. She's described as young, affectionate, and selfless person. Jim Dillingham is her husband. He is described as a 22-year-old thin man who worked hard so that they could have enough money to pay the rent for their flat. In spite of this, he's described as someone who's contented. He's a quiet person, good-natured. See, we come to know this from Della's description. She's not actually describing, but when she is buying the fob chain, she describes it as being something exactly like Jim. And he also loves Della as much as she loves him. The next is Madame Sofroni. She only appears for a short while, and she's the hair shop owner who bought Della's hair for $20. Augusti and Divya Vardhan, you are not supposed to share your screens. Nobody is going to share the screens or turn on the video. So Madame Safroni, she is the hair shop owner who bought Della's hair for $20. She is described as a large, too white. Shridhar, please turn off your video. And she's too chilly or cold. That means she was not a very warm person. Next is the summary. Summary simply tells you that on Christmas Eve, Della has $1.87 in her savings, and she is heartbroken because they're not very rich, and she had been saving to buy a nice gift for Jim, but then she's not able to because she doesn't have any money. Then she gets an idea. She decides to sell her hair to buy Jim something nice. Then after that, she goes to the street to Madame Sofroni's shop, and then she sold her hair, and Madame Sofroni after selling her hair and getting the money, she buys a platinum fob chain, and it costs her $21, and then she rushes home. The moment she rushes home, she uses curling irons to give herself a new hairdo. Then she readied the coffee, and she got the chops for frying, and then she waits for her husband. When the husband comes, he is shocked to see her look. And Della explains that, I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. And Jim is bewildered. But then he tries to tell his wife that, I'm not sad for your hair. I'm sad for something else. Look at this, the present. There was this present that he had bought her. And then Della looks at the present, and she burst into tears. And they were the combs that she had waiting for a long time. And then Della Della shares her gift, and then they decide that Jim tells her that our gifts are too nice to use at present, so let's start with supper. So this is the story. Now, what is the point of view? The point of view is from the view of a third person. Okay, and what is the condition? That they are financially struggling. What is the climax in the story? The climax is when Della opened her gift, and then they were able to understand why Jim was shocked. The suspense is, where did he get the money to buy the gifts? To buy the gift for Della? And then later on, it is cleared that it's clarified to us through Jim. He tells Della that, I was able to buy the gift because I had sold my gold watch to buy a gift for you. Now, this is the theme of the story. The two major themes of the story are sacrifice and love. See, children, throughout the whole story, sacrifice plays a big role. In what way? It starts with Della. She sold her hair, though it's a precious thing for her and even for Jim. And the same thing goes for Jim. When he sold his gold watch, he was giving away his most precious possession so that he could buy Della a decent present. Now, it was also something that he knew that Della had wanted for a long time. The next theme is love. You only make sacrifices for a person you love with all your heart. Okay. So one would need as great love as Della has for Jim and Jim has for Della to sacrifice their precious possessions. Although the sacrifices made were in vain, they could not be used. Okay. But the two do not think so. They know that now they would both sacrifice their most prized possessions for each other. And in the end, what they gave to each other was love. So, this sacrifice, this giving up of their prized possessions did not go in vain, because the two people here in the story, these two persons, they have given each other the rarest thing, and that is love. And at least they know that they love each other enough to be able to give up the most uh, precious possessions. Now I have a question for you. You will raise your hand to answer. My question is, you as a person have to think about this and tell me, do you think Jim and Della were wise or foolish? And you also have to tell me, why do you think so? You can raise your hand and then I'll unmute you. Yes, Charvi beta.
Uh, Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, beta.
Ma'am, I don't think so. They were foolish, but I either think that they were wise because they loved each other unconditionally. So whatever they had, they were happy with that. And Della loved his husband, and she gave whatever she gave that his old leather strap he used to take out
Yes,
every single time. The story that he was not like when he used to take out his watch, he used to be like he thought that this is so awkward to take out that old leather strap and that watch.
yes.
So he also gave that watch and just brought the gift for Della.
Great, great. Very nice answer, Charvi. I completely agree with that. But doesn't mean that there cannot be any other kind of answers. There can be. Okay. So, anyone else who has an answer? Harsh? Yes,
Yes,
beta.
ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon,
Ma'am,
beta.
I do think so. Good afternoon. Ma'am, I do think so that they both were wise because uh, I don't think so that the sacrifice which they made was not worth for their
Yes,
love.
very
Ma'am,
good.
because they both loved each other, and
Yes.
after and ma'am, they were happy for buying a gift for each other.
Exactly. It gave them happiness and it gave them so much more faith in each other. At the end of the day, why do we give gifts? We give gifts to we do keep in mind that, okay, this one needs this, so we are going to, give this so the person will be all the more happier. But at the end of the day, the purpose of a gift is not to supply each other's needs, but to show them that we
Okay.
love and care. And Jim and Della were successful in doing this. And that is why their gifts were not a waste, although it does seem at first that it was such a stupid thing. But then ultimately, looking at the couple's love for each other and their devotion that tells us that it was actually at the end of the day not a foolish thing to do. They had to
And ma'am,
show each other that they loved each other, and that is what they were successful in doing. Good answer, Harsh. Anything else that you want to add?
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to add that one thing was very good in that uh, by doing the sacrifice, the faith for each other has increased between them.
Beautiful. Yes. Very good. And
Thank you, ma'am.
uh, another question is, suppose you have to use three best adjectives to describe the couple, Jim and Della, Mr. and Mrs. James Dillingham. Which three adjectives would they be? You can raise your hands and I'll unmute you and we can share our answers with everyone. Three adjectives. Ashna? Ashna, did you raise your hand, beta? You want to answer this? Yes, Shriman, I've unmuted you, beta. You can answer.
The three adjectives I would like to add that are caring,
Very good.
selfless,
Very nice. Beautiful.
and satisfied.
Very good. Beautiful. Very nice.
They
Very beautiful adjectives you used. Great.
they are satisfied and and they are satisfied in what they have and whether they had only two things that were the treasures of their house, then two they sold them to make each other happy.
Very good. Thank you, beta. Agrem, you wanted to answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Ha, beta.
I will give three adjectives: faithful,
Very good.
caring, big-hearted.
Very nice. Super. Very nice.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, beta. Who else? Any other adjective, something nice that comes to your mind that nobody has thought of? See, children have described them as selfless and caring and loving. Shubham, you want to answer? Shubham, you can answer.
Ma'am, I wanted to say, I just wanted to add one adjective that they were affectionate.
Okay, they were affectionate, all right. That's almost the same as saying that they were a loving couple. Somebody said that, I think. But yes, good answer. Anyone else? Harsh, you want to add?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, beta.
Ma'am, I want to add one that it can be happy, devoted,
Yes, yes.
and ma'am, I have one sentence for them that they they were very what to just a second, ma'am. They were very cheerful.
Yes, Jim tries to spread some cheer at the end of the story. Okay, by not making a big deal out of it and just saying, okay, fine, they're just too good to use right now. And let's start with the supper. So, yes. Thank you, Harsh. Yes, Charvi, the three adjectives. Sorry, I am trying to. Yes, Charvi, you're unmuted now.
I wanted to say a sentence like, ma'am, like they were not money minded. Like still they,
Superb. Yes.
like they were not financially good, but still
Uh,
they were not money minded, and they always like, and yeah, ma'am, one more adjective, I guess, forgiveness, because Jim,
Beautiful.
after all, he knew
Huh.
that Della has like went to the shop, the to Madame Safroni, and cut like her hair was trimmed off. Still,
Uh-huh.
he was like not he was not angry on her like
Yes.
others do, like
Huh. Huh.
like others do. Like he was okay, it's
Yes.
fine.
Yes.
Like forgiveness, not this
Yes.
adjective.
Great. So, thank you, Charvi. I think between all of these, we have got almost all the adjectives. There's one more word that comes to my mind, and that is observant. Okay, these two are very observant also. See, Della, when she was looking at that, whenever she looked at that Broadway window and she admired those tortoise shell combs, she did not say it. I want these, because she knew that her husband cannot afford it, and so she's quiet. Okay, but her husband loves her so much that by that look that she gives it to the look that she gives to the combs, he knew that she likes them and she would like to use them. Okay, and Della was also observant enough, and she had also observed Jim not being able to take out his watch in public because of that unmatched leather chain strap that it had. So these two were quiet people, in the sense that they were very observant. They were not very vocal about. Jim never complained aloud, okay, and Della also never said aloud that I want this thing. But then, uh, in spite of their unspoken desires, each of them could read each other's minds, and they bought the perfect gifts for them, for each other. So it was a lovely session that we had today, and hope to see you all tomorrow. And it's time for the next class, children. So I'll be signing off now. Bye.